So I haven't let them in yet. So I'm gonna set this up back along. There are 4 people in the waiting room.
Came on for Zoom. We got you on speaker.
Yeah. You're not coming in very well. Can you see if you can get a better mic? If you can hook it up to the radio. You still there, man? Hey, everybody, we're going to give people a few minutes to come in. We've come to the Truth and Democracy Coalition's Adlin Nonpartisan Medical Men's Group discussion on where Sam can Democrats will men back, and we'll start in a few minutes. So.
Okay.
Okay. Claire?
Hey, Fred. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hi, Fred. Clark, hi, Tim.
I'm sorry?
I said, hi, Tim. Hi, Clark. Hi, Fred.
Oh, hi. Hi, Richard.
Hi. Hi.
Oh, could you hear me? I didn't have my microphone down.
There you go.
I said, hey, hi, Fred.
I hear, let me switch to, was that Tim? Is that you?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have my microphone down here.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry, Matthew. And all right. So I'm wondering if I should change my background here.
Oh, no, I think it's perfect. I was about to compliment you on it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So let's see if anybody else comes in. Give them another minute here. So Harry, how are you coming on sound? Can you...
Yeah.
Hi, Harry.
Mhm.
Okay, just so everybody knows, I'm in a car and Chris is driving, and we got some road noise. I can't get this thing to Bluetooth car. I have it in my ear, and I can't get the speaker to turn off. So hard time
Yeah, it looks like it's not going to work with that sound right there. So, if we can get it, because it's breaking up, it's not coming through clearly. So, see if you can pull over and fix it. Maybe log back in, log out, log back in.
That usually works.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew and Terry, for coming. Right. And I will I want to get started pretty soon here. So how's it going, Harry?
good. Chris, me.
Say? Testing 1, 2, 3.
Richard?
Yes.
I'm trying to think of the guy's name. It's Mark something who wrote a book about the Democrats getting men, like appealing to men or something.
Okay.
I have the book somewhere, but you probably know who I mean.
Actually, I don't actually.
Was he invited to this?
I don't know. Actually, there may be some people who have written books on that, but I haven't. I invited Harry, president of the National Coalition for Men, to speak about it. But I didn't ask the other person. I didn't know about them. And there's probably more than one because there's been a number of articles.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go get the book so I could show you.
Okay, that'd
But
be
I'm
great.
having trouble. Like, there's something with your audio, and it might be my iPad. But
I'm hearing it also.
oh, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're breaking up, Rich.
I'm breaking up. Okay. All right, let me see if I can switch audio here. All right, testing 1, 2, 3. Is that better? No, same thing, right?
Richard, I've got an icon that has your name, the Nonpartisan Red Pill Men's Group,
That's
and it is. Go ahead.
That's another. I'm logged in from another location.
Oh,
So that's that. Yes, the recording will be available, but and we're doing it live. We're streaming this live now. Are we not streaming? I think we are streaming this live on YouTube, so you can get it there. But we got to get this audio figured out. Are you hearing me okay right now?
No, you're garbled.
Okay, let's go to this testing. 1, 2, 3.
I think what.
Low, right? Now I'm a little low.
Yes.
Okay.
Low in volume.
Yes, let's see. Here. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Do you hear me?
Yeah, that sounds good.
that was good.
Okay, good. All right. So yeah, I think maybe having the low input volume was doing that. Okay. Harry, you there?
Yeah, it's coming in better.
Okay. All right. So if for some reason we can't hear Harry, maybe some of you guys will fill in with some of the answers to the questions yourself. You know, if Harry can't, if we get garbled stuff from Harry, we'll the same questions could apply to all of us. You know, really why we're here, what we're doing, and what we think. So basically it falls into those groups. But I just want to start right now here. And so it's being recorded, it's being live streamed on YouTube right now. So, and then it's going to be produced and made into 20 or 30-minute programs and aired on a radio station in Coos County, Oregon. I'm still behind on the website, but the live stream will be there. And then, so if you speaking, it'd be great to have your camera on so that we can see your lovely faces. But if not, that's okay too. You raise your hand. That would be good to help put people into a queue if you have something to say, and I'll call on you. And so today we're speaking with Harry Crouch, the president of the National Coalition for Men, and we're asking the question, where's SAM? SAM stands for Speaking to American Men.
Wow.
And can the Democratic Party win men back? And that's their program. It's a 20 million program, Speaking to American Men, a project that's aimed at understanding why so many men have drifted away from the Democratic Party and how to bring them back. It sometimes makes me wonder why they wonder that. But the concern isn't abstract. Governor Newsom signed an executive order to address a growing crisis of loneliness, depression, and suicide among boys and young men. The order directs state agencies to expand mental health services in schools, recruit more male teachers and counselors, provide stronger support networks for young men. At the same time, advocates are calling for greater institutional support. For example, the National Coalition for Men has sued Los Angeles County for failing to create a commission on men and boys, even though there's a longstanding commission on women already. And a commission for men and boys would help address some of the unique challenges facing men in this country, half the population. And as president of the National Coalition for Men, emphasized and has worked since 1977 to dismantle harmful stereotypes and policies that hurt men, their families, the women who love them and depend on them. As a gender inclusive, nonpartisan, and ethnically diverse organization, it promotes reform through advocacy, education, outreach, direct services, and litigation. And women are a part of this too. We have meetings and, they're almost half women. And so women are involved in this too. It's not just men. And the truth is simple. The widening political and cultural divide between men and women is straining our relationships, threatening our democracy. Democrats cannot win and progressives cannot govern without men. So in my mind, the first step is to listen to men. Programs led by men are often reflect a deeper understanding of the challenges that men face. And it's impossible to effectively reach men without first understanding how they feel. And that's why we're creating this space for this conversation. And I'd like to introduce Harry, and we also have members of the National Coalition of Men here. We have the Vice President, Tim, who will also can speak, and we have other members, and everyone here is willing to put their 2 cents in. But I will go to Harry first and ask Harry to tell us about yourself. Why are you doing this work? Are you guys hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, good. You there, Harry?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's doing my background. No.
Harry, you're not coming through, Harry. You're not coming through.
Can
So
you hear me at all?
I can hear you some when you say I can hear you, but it's got that a weird sound to it, and then when you start talking, it just cuts off and on. So see if you can correct that. Let's go to why don't we go to Tim Golditch, Vice President of the National Coalition for Men, and see if you can answer that question for yourself. What got you involved in all of this? Are you ready for this? I'm putting you on the spot
No,
here.
no, it's okay. I mean, that's just some silly story, It's just I was a member of a little gang of women, these 5 women, and we were very close, and we had, all these social birthdays and holidays and so on together, and I just felt beat up by their rhetoric, their feminist rhetoric, and I just went looking for, well, what's the other side of the coin, as Roy
So
Schenck
when was
called it.
that? When was that?
That
How
was
old were you?
hmm?
How old were you?
Oh, that was late 80s.
And well, were you in your 30s, in your 20s, in your 40s?
Well, I have to do the math now.
Yeah,
So that would be 30, about 31 or so, 32.
31. So you have already gone through the 20s.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
like everyone else, I pretty much, had thought that the feminist perspective was reasonable. I thought it was missing some things, but I wasn't that up in arms about it until, I started getting just beat up by the feminist rhetoric directly.
Yeah.
So I got
Yeah.
into it to find the other side of the coin. And
Yeah.
when I didn't find it, I said, well, okay, if nobody's going to write that book, then I'll write it. In fact, there had been some excellent men's books, but I just didn't know what they were because they were obscure. But by the time I discovered other books, I had already invested in my own. So that's I guess how I got into the whole thing.
Yeah. And so what do you think the problem is? How has the Democratic Party failed?
Well, it's pretty clear enough to me. It's they're infused with so much misandry, the mirror opposite of misogyny. Of course, we all know what misogyny is, but many have never even heard this word misandry, which
Mhm.
is a hostility, a prejudicial sort of hostility directed at men and masculinity. And the Democratic Party, especially the far left, is just infused with men are bad, man bad, the overempowered oppressor, woman good, the innocent victim. And it's the primary stronghold of feminism, and it's I'm talking about the far left now, and this is they came from a place that the masculinity is toxic. That's it's from that wellspring that is still so deeply infused throughout academia that you get the APA, one of the most august bodies on the planet, uh, officially declaring traditional masculinity as harmful. And
Mhm.
while men might not know these details, we get the sense of it, even out there, even if they don't have their ear to the ground, it's pretty clear overall that the Democratic Party is pretty male hostile and that it tends to cater to women.
Question, Tim.
Yeah.
The
That's part.
APA, is that Clark Savage here? The APA, is that American Psychological or American Psychiatric Association? There is
Psychological,
a difference.
I believe this is psychological that I'm talking about. That's the
Not surprised.
APA, as in APA formatting. It's a deeply powerful academic institution, and it's
Not surprised.
it's
Please
respected all
continue.
over the world, and yet it has the gall to declare traditional masculinity as harmful. And from my point of view, it's like, what if a bunch of pencil neck geeks think that they have the right to declare masculinity anything? What can they? uh, They
It
have no
seems
business defining masculinity. They have no authority to define masculinity.
right, especially in negative terms like that.
Yeah.
And it just seems like there's a lot of factors going into this. I think there's political entrepreneurialism is one of them, where people are making money and running businesses doing political advocacy. It could be a good thing. We're doing it, right? National Coalition for Men is doing it. But sometimes it becomes a self-interested about special interests and doesn't take any principles into account. I think that was the flaw of the feminist movement, is that they went away from ideology and um, principle. They went away from principle and decided just to pursue women's interest. And then we had all this leftist DEI stuff and critical race theory and all of that. And they they create this really demonized version of a lot of people. And I
Yeah.
think there's a and so it may and then there's also, in addition to this, there's women's natural tendency to be in a competitive situation and adverse. Our mating strategies are adversarial. So they will deny, and I mean, it's like women will deceive themselves in order to deceive men. I think that's the story of Adam and Eve, that they will deny and blame men for everything. Prostitution is men's fault. It's not women's behavior. That's men's fault.
Yeah,
Everything
well,
is men's fault. And that's their solipsism, which is innate. And so they can't really represent men. They cannot represent men. And yet
well,
this
yeah. It's not clear
critical,
what's innate and what's not. The nature nurture debate's been going on for thousands of years, and it remains a really deep rabbit hole, and it's not really all that clear still what exactly is going on with that. Um, Culturally, we've always invested our respect upon men and our love upon women. And that's in the polarized past, that was really obvious. Uh, and and women, well, like like, like women have so far they've just insisted on being respected. Like it's like you must respect women.
mm-hmm,
That's the rule.
mm-hmm,
You right there. You must respect women. Well, okay, but they haven't really looked at how are women going to be more respected? What are women going to do to be more respected?
right,
How have women been responsible for not being as respected? You know, one way of saying why men have been less loved than women, well, they've been less lovable. They've been less vulnerable. They've been less innocent. They've been less sweet. They've been less agreeable, blah, blah, blah. They haven't had as strong in the lovable qualities. Well, same goes for the women. They haven't been as strong in the respectable qualities. So, like you say, one of those is they won't be accountable.
yeah,
And what do you do? What kind of human is not accountable? Well, a child human is not accountable. An
yeah.
adult human is going to be accountable for their own choices and their behaviors and what they do and what they fail to do.
Right. I mean, it's almost a sport to, I mean, not only respect, but disrespect men. That's tolerated. I mean, because
Oh
we are
yeah.
to be disrespected, and and I'm a, evolutionary psychiatrists have their thing. And one thing I heard, who was it said that we're kind of like subhuman. I think that
Yeah.
was, that
Oh
they
yeah.
we're
The
not, we're,
judgments the judgments have been horrendous on both sides. Both
yeah,
sides have just judged terribly. Men have been constrained somewhat by chivalry and by a society that's intolerant of being critical of women. Uh,
mhm,
but uh, But both sexes get their shot in. It's just that women's denigration of men is more accepted
yeah.
than the reverse.
Harry, can you try to speak now, Harry? Unmute and give us and let us know that you're there, that we can hear you. But anyway, because right now you're muted. Harry came back in, so I wanted to try and get him in.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Oh yeah,
right now he's
please.
muted. So
Please do.
um, yeah. So I guess once he gets unmuted, we'll bring him back in. Yeah. So
Well, all right. So what can the Democratic Party do to bring men back in? Well,
right, that's the next
it's
question. Yes.
yeah, I mean that's pretty obvious, really, right? I mean, it can listen to men, it can empathize with men, it can respect men, it can apologize to men, you know? How about that? How about,
Yeah.
sorry about that we've been ignoring you for the
Yeah,
last
don't
50
hold your breath
years.
on the apology part.
But I'm just saying, what can they do? Well, there you go. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? I mean, what they can do if they wanted to. Now, it would be easy. It would be difficult emotionally and psychologically to do what's needed, but it's not exactly rocket science. All they would have to do is apologize and say, we're listening
He
now.
misjudged you.
We've misjudged you. We now understand how important you are. We have established a commission on the well-being of boys and men. We we acknowledge your perspectives, including the statistics that demonstrate
And
all,
men's disadvantages,
yeah,
right? Men's
right, men's
disadvantages.
disadvantage, men's
Yeah,
victimization, if they can bear to use the V word.
right.
Um,
Yeah, and how,
it would be incredibly galling for them. So like what was it Clark said, I'm not holding my breath for this either, but it's pretty obvious what they should do if they really want to bring men back into the
yeah.
Democrat.
I had one of the comic doing a comic show. This I might as well tell you, everyone here, if they're in Southern California or nearby, you're invited to my birthday party tonight at the Stand Up Comedy Club in Bellflower, California. Doors open at 5. Show starts at 6. It happens to be my comedy graduation class day as well. So, but one of the women, is coming back, because I have this very critical comedy routine that's critical of women, and women coming back, oh, men have it so easy. They can just grow a beard to make themselves look better. And so, but they really don't
Oh,
get it.
well, that's
They,
outrageous that they would say that.
yeah, but they really don't get it, and they're still caught. And that's why we got kicked off. I got kicked off of Mobilize. I think when they really don't get it, they really can't tolerate something that's different. They got in their minds that certain groups are demonized enemies. And it's so unfortunate that that demonized enemy happens to be men.
Yeah, well,
So,
that's of course not acknowledged to be the case, but yes, the feminist. Well, as I look at it, the feminist rhetoric, all feminism, men have been the targets, but the fallout's really been universal. Feminism has done
mhm.
so much to do damage to women and the world of women. Feminism has targeted the world of women, not the world of men, to be denigrated and diminished. I
Well,
mean,
I
feminism
think
has been up in arms for hundreds of years about how the home place has to be the marriage has to be discontinued because it's the home is the source of male dominance and patriarchy, and they've been trying to dissuade women from marrying men, from having children, from investing in the home place since like Simone de Beauvoir, way back there. Her famous quote, women should
Hmm.
not have the option to stay at home and raise the children because if they have that option, too many women will take it.
right. Well,
She actually said this, you see.
yeah, I think she was a sexologist. I'm not sure. Maybe feminist is a categorization for her, but
Well, it was a little before
yeah,
feminism, but
but
still, it's like, yeah, and she was smarter than most of them. A lot of these
yeah.
feminists really, really had nothing going on upstairs. Like Camille Paglia just was
Oh,
so
that was I was
rolling her
thinking.
eyes at these idiots,
Yeah,
these
yeah,
feminist idiots that really
yeah,
had
yeah.
no intellectual credentials at all.
Well, I can tell you that there's a lot of heavy intellectual credentials in feminism and a lot of difficult philosophy, but that really doesn't translate to politics so much. But if you look back, you've got the 19th Amendment and the right to women to vote. I mean, that was certainly something that women should fight for. And then you've had
But
the,
they didn't, though. The reason that the Equal Rights Amendment didn't pass was because so many women opposed it.
well,
Not
right,
not
the
because
And
men
why did they
opposed it.
oppose it?
Well, there's lots of reasons. See, I mean, if you go back and study these things, you can one, they didn't want their men competing with women for jobs. Put yourself in the place of a woman in 1955.
Mhm.
What percentage is that for her of what women are going to have all these jobs now? Well, wait a minute. We want our men to get those jobs. They need to be protected providers. They can't be competing. What's some woman going to do with this high paid job?
yeah, well,
There was you got to take yourself back to those times and what the assumptions were and how things worked.
Right.
And
Well, that's, yeah,
and
yeah,
if women, I'm sorry, I'm a gender political machine, but
yeah. Sure.
you look at it, they didn't want, one of the big reasons why they didn't want the Equal Rights Amendment, because then they'd be required to be on juries. And if they were
Ah,
on juries, then they're going to hear nasty things like about murder trials. And the women are like, oh,
Well, yeah. Well, I think that's something that you had the 19th Amendment. That's way back in what, the 1800s or the 1920s? No, was it? I forget.
1920s.
Right. And then you've got Betty Friedan and the feminine mystique and the idea that women should be able to work and earn a living themselves. That's certainly, a good thing. And then, but I think the draft, women definitely do not want equality. I mean, the Supreme
Yeah,
Court came up with a middle level of scrutiny just for gender differences. There are differences,
yeah,
and they wanted to acknowledge that. But they didn't want to change the relationship structure either,
right.
because that benefited them. That's where all their privileges are. And so they didn't want to change that,
Yeah,
but then solipsism comes in again where they blame men. They want to blame men for the fact that they couldn't pass the Equal Rights Amendment.
right.
Really,
Well,
they don't
no, I
want
know.
it.
They want to cherry pick equality. It's like
Right.
Bill Burr does his stand up about it, and it's like a line at the smorgasbord, the buffet. Oh, I'll take some of this equality, but not that yucky equality over there. And it's like cherry pick. They want that. They want this sort of what I call female only equality, so that women are always equal to men. And you see, it's like women can often be more than, but can never be less than in anything ever.
Right.
And they'll call
They
that
want,
equality. And
yeah,
it's man bad, woman good equality. This is not
yeah,
equality at all.
yeah. Equality when it benefits them, and inequality when it benefits them. And that's one reason why I say it's women's turn to change. And in fact, you can buy merchandise on my website, the truthandemocracycoalition.com. You can buy this shirt, and on the back it says, masculinity is not toxic. Masculinity is attractive. I'm going
Yeah,
to wear this to my comedy routine
yeah,
tomorrow. I've got coffee cups. It's women's turn to change now.
yeah.
Men have made tremendous strides in the direction of equality.
I
And I
think
think,
so. Yeah.
yeah, and this is the problem with why we having this psychological impact on men, on young boys. They're trying to address it, but also the utter failure of DEI, the utter failure of these programs that have really just turned young men really against them. I mean, when you look at the stats, the young men are coming out more conservative, more traditional, and uh, so it's backfired. Of course, it's backfired. It was a Gestapo type approach, to let's make sure nobody misgenders anybody and that men are the enemy. They come in as the enemy of society, as the problem to be solved. And with this problem of mental health, I think it's a noble idea. And this is not the first time feminists and women have come up with policies that are not very good. The alcohol one, what was that called again?
The
When they tried to
prohibition.
eliminate prohibition, that came out of the feminist
It
movement,
did. And it was a
and
disaster.
it was a disaster. So men have to have a say in how things go, and I think women are the one who's going to have to start looking at themselves, and yet they're not innately designed to do that, and they're designed to blame men
Well,
for
I understand
for
why
the
you're
problem.
saying that. And you may be right. I
Mhm.
fear that you may be right about that.
Mhm.
And I do see signs of women now taking on accountability. Because you
hmm.
see, it's all in how you look at it. I'm a part of a men's organization called the New Warriors, And for us, accountability is, we call that the gift of accountability. You see,
Mhm.
it's like accountability is a big part of the warrior movement. So it's like somebody shows up late to the warrior meeting and they're not familiar with all this. So we say, why were you late? He says, well, traffic was bad. And we go, no, that's wrong. Try again. And I said, well,
Mhm.
it was, took too long to find a place to park. No, wrong again. Those things that you know that the parking and traffic can take time now, you know, the why were you late? Get to the truth here. And finally it come, well, I stopped off at the cleaners. And when I did, I made the completion of an errand more important than making sure that I'd be to the meeting on time. Okay, good. Now we're happy. Because when we make parking and traffic the cause of of our being late, we're putting the locus of control on the outside. We're
Mm.
disempowering ourselves. We want to get to that point where the man understands that the consequences were out of his own choices, that he was in charge.
Right,
Hmm.
right, right.
See,
And that,
and
yeah,
so that's why we call it the gift of accountability. And it's not impossible to sell that, I think, on women. I've seen some evidence that women will take to that if it's presented right and they understand it right.
and that's I think one of the problems with the Democratic Party's approach here. First, the speak to men. We've already acknowledged it's really the listen to men, not the
Yes.
speak to men. So we need to be lectured. We need to be spoken to. You know, how are we going to speak to men? And then this thing with mental health. And, all right, I support mental health, but really, is this just blaming these young men? You have to toughen up. It's always the man has to toughen up. The man has to, and the
Oh,
women are like, and they'll walk around and say, "You have to do this, and you have to do that, and this is what I want, and this is how you know." And the men are always stuck in. We have to take the responsibility. We're responsible for our lives. We're responsible for our feelings. We're responsible for our situation. There's no social pressures or structures that are limiting us, or oppressing us, or giving us, or and so what are you doing? Okay, you have a mental health problem. It's not you have a problem with misandry and injustice in
right.
the world. You have a mental health problem.
Yeah. See, the problem is not that it's not about, it's good to hold men accountable. It's good to hold people accountable. It's just that accountability and compassion have to go hand in hand. There has to be both. Accountability without compassion is ruthless. And that's what we've tended to direct toward men. And that's not right. That it respects men but doesn't love them.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, for women, it's compassion without accountability, which is infantilizing. It's loving women, not respecting them. So really, it's about finding a balance between these two
right.
things.
I might equate that with, the idea of justice and mercy, that we might want to hold somebody accountable and be just and treat others justly. But we also have to understand what people are going through, where they're coming from, and have some mercy in appropriate situations.
Yeah, yeah,
And so that's a part of just government. And I really feel that, I've gone through a lot, and that's trying to help young men, especially men in their 20s and 30s, who need to read the red pill. And some of the guys in my comedy class, the guys 30, needs to, the longer you wait,
I know.
you'll regret it.
I
You'll
know.
regret it. I regret not
There
learning.
are things men need to understand about women and what attracts them. It really doesn't behoove men to remain so naive.
So what is the National Coalition for Men doing? What type of programs? What are you guys doing to make a difference?
Well, our primary spoken, I'm sorry, Harry, of course, is the one who really should answer this question, but the what's on the website as the primary focus is about raising awareness, which is which is really about teaching. It's about well, it's raising awareness of what I call the other half of gender reality, which is the female power and male victimization half. And it's about demonstrating the stats. We all know the litany of stats, right? You know, that men are 85% of the street homeless, don't even have a shelter to go to at night. And, you know, you know, I can rattle this stuff off like crazy. You know,
Right,
90,
right.
you know, all 10 of the 10 most hazardous jobs, as well as the bottom 24 of the 25 worst jobs, is rated by the Jobs Rated Almanac, are all 90 to 100% male occupied. Men are about 15 times as likely to die on the job as a woman, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
You know, it's that stuff. We're trying to
right.
raise awareness of that reality.
Yeah,
But there's others that can do that as well as I can.
yeah. I was wondering,
I can
right.
go.
Yeah. I was wondering, Fred, you wanted to share with us that author that you were talking about and
Oh,
what tells us about the
yeah, but
Democrat.
it's gonna be backwards on the
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, I can't even
It's
see it. What's the title?
How Democrats Can Win Back Men, and the author is Mark Sutton, Mark W. Sutton.
Okay.
Strutton Sutton, yeah, I remember him from way back. Yeah.
Who tell us about him, Tim?
Oh, he's one of a large cast of characters of in the men's movement. You know, he's been I believe I remember him from like NCFM forum from way back. Um,
Hmm.
you know, he's just been a voice and a personality out there for a long
Yeah,
time. So
yeah.
he
So
knows
what
what
does
he's
he
talking
say,
about.
Fred? Yeah, what does he say, Fred? Do you
Um,
know?
yeah, there's other stuff I'd rather talk
Talk
about,
about. Okay,
which
go ahead.
kind of
Go ahead.
includes, I mean, the short answer is he says how Democrats can win back men, um, and I think he avoids the issue of there's going to have to be some fundamental changes in the Democratic Party. Otherwise, they're not going to. It doesn't matter what they say. Um, my favorite line about this issue was in Babylon Bee the day after Trump was reelected, and because it just they have humor and they just sum up everything in one line. And
Yeah.
it was Democrats can't figure out why men didn't vote for the party that hates them.
Yeah.
Right, I heard that.
And that's
Yeah.
it, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think what to be realistic, you know, it would be nice if the Democratic Party apologized to men and, you know, did all of the stuff that we're talking about. Everything that was said so far is true. I agree with it. But it's not going to happen. You know, we have to be realistic about the Democratic Party, and the political realism is that they are beholden to the feminist bloc, the feminist power to be in for them to be in power.
Yeah.
And that feminist industry, that multi-billion-dollar powerful industry, is going to veto anything that we're talking about, and they're going to veto it because they look at men and women. It's kind of like the Marxist thing of, you know, that you have to analyze everything from an oppressor and the oppressed. Everything has to fit in there. And for feminists, they look at men and women as basically competitors and analyze everything from that perspective. So they're never going to, you know, as long as deep inside they feel that if you're helping men, you're hurting women. Men already have it too good. We can say out loud that feminism is really, you know, although the dictionary says it's the advocacy for women of the political, social, and economic rights enjoyed by men, what we really mean is that we want equality for everybody. Um, so they can proclaim that loudly, but then they whisper that, of course, men already have all the rights and powers and privileges, so we really don't have to do anything for
Yeah.
that. And
What's the name of
so
that author again?
I'm sorry?
What is the name of that author Mark,
Sutton. Mark
Sutton.
Sutton.
Sutton. Mark W. Sutton.
is he a physician?
I don't know. I met him once.
All right, all right.
He gave me a copy of his book. and he was a nice guy, definitely a nice guy, and his heart's in the right place. But the reality, if you analyze, if you make an analysis based on a false paradigm, your analysis is bound to be wrong, and the policies that it leads to are bound to be wrong. And feminism analyzes society from the perspective that men and women are competitors. But we all know intuitively that men and women are interdependent, not in competition. And if you analyze the society and sexism from that paradigm, you get a whole different analysis of sexism and a whole different array of policies that we should implement. And but until that happens, until feminism accepts that they're not in competition with men, that they're interdependent, it's what we're talking about is just simply not going to happen. And they're I don't see them accepting that, because they have come up and convinced us all that, they have this huge list of women's issues and a tiny list of men's issues. And to them, that's proof that what they're saying, the way they analyze society, is true. Look at all these women's problems. But when you look at it from the interdependence of men and women, then you can understand that list, because the interdependence, when you look at men and women as interdependent, then you realize that any problem women have ultimately hurts men, and vice versa. Any problem men have ultimately hurts women. So they can take every single issue of sexism, and it's easy to know when something is sexist. They can take every single one, and if it impacts women directly, that's a woman's issue. If it impacts men directly, well, ultimately it's going to hurt women. So again, it's a woman's issue. And when I taught men's issues, men's rights at Tufts University, a top university, smart students, I started out by saying feminism has it backwards. It's really women who have all the power and men who have all the problems. Prove me wrong, a Charlie Kirk thing. And every single issue that they came up with all the women's issues. And all I did was show how it ultimately hurts men. And then I said, no, that's really a men's issue. So men can have, if you look at society only from that competition paradigm, then you can either say, have this huge list of men's problems, or have a huge list of women's problems. But we have to get off that paradigm. And I don't think feminism, the feminists in power, I don't think they're willing to do that. So as long as they're not willing to do that, the Democratic Party cannot do that. And as long as the Democratic Party cannot do that, they're not going to win back men.
Oh, geez, yeah. Couldn't agree more, Fred. I mean, feminism doesn't just risk losing its ideological dictatorship. Feminism is at risk of exposure as evil, as having perpetrated incredible intellectual crimes. Saying things like that men beating up on pregnant women is a primary cause of birth defects, more than all other causes combined, has been put out there.
A lot of stuff. Yeah.
A lot of that kind of stuff. That's really a denigration on men. That's a defamation on men. That's a form of violence. There's so many crimes of the feminist movement.
No, you're absolutely right. They would lose that. They would lose their identity of women being on higher moral grounds, women being innocent, women being able to blame. It's so nice to blame all your problems on somebody else. They would lose that. They would lose a lot of money. So
that's the big thing. Yeah, but I tend to come back to women's innate. I do think that, and Rollo Tomasi says that our dating strategies, our mating strategies, are adversarial, and we got to go back. Also, we've had this girls against the boys things being pushed on us for a long time, and the girls take it really seriously. The guys kind of say, well, how can I do it without hurting a woman? How can I purposely lose, so that, but I think there's something about women not being able to really see anything that doesn't benefit them, and but we might be able to change women, just like the population. They're not going to accept this feminist, even though I'm not against feminism, and I think there's a lot of truth in feminism in some ways, but there's there's a lot of demonizing propaganda that has come out recently, and Tim has mentioned some of it, and blaming men for things like, well, anyway, just so I don't know where it's going, but I think that sometimes that women are adversarial and with us, and that's what comes out. And then we have, this escaping me, but we've talked about it. Men are toxic. Men are the cause of war. If we only had women in charge, we wouldn't have war. Why? Well, why do we have war? So women can go shopping? Well, this is the type of stuff that women have convinced themselves of uncritically. And
Sure.
and until they're willing to listen to us. But one thing we can do, we can change women, look at what happened this election. People don't accept those things. They're going to go by the wayside. It's not going to help the Democratic Party. It's going to become more and more irrelevant if it continues down that path. And so if that path of anti-male and anti-whiteness and anti-Christian, they won't see it, but if they're going down that path, and that path is going to lead to irrelevance, and losses, then they may have a motivation to see things differently. And that's why I think groups like the National Coalition for Men are so important, because they are raising this consciousness. And we were talking today about how there are positive signs out there, people going out there and raising consciousness, women becoming more aware. Hey, look, we want a guy who's masculine. It's not that masculine is toxic. Masculine is attractive. We want our guys to pay for dates. We want our guys to be providers. We want our guys to be strong. Well, this is what we want of men, and we don't want them to be these wussified groups of guys who are catering to every demand that women make. And yet that's their natural tendency, to test us, to make demands, to see if we will capitulate to them. And so there's this innate part of this that I think is feeding on this frenzy of misandry and hatred and negativity. Just like men have it so freaking easy, and we don't have it easy.
No.
But in a woman's mind, men have it easy. Maybe it's, but they will disrespect us. They don't want most of us, and they really don't care about most of us when it comes down to it. Just what they want to get from us, kind of thing. But anyway, I think there's a lot more going on. But I do think that we can change the women, that we might not be able to change the feminists, and the Democratic Party, if they continue going down the road of irrelevance, may find themselves forced to make some changes. And I think that's what they're trying to confront now, being forced to make some changes, because they just can't, like I said, they can't govern without men. They can't win elections without men. And men are responding to this attack on them, which it really is an attack on men. That Super Bowl ad, they kicked that old man in the butt, and it was funny. It wasn't funny to me to see the teacher being disrespected by anybody, and it had to be by a person of color, which was even worse for the representation of people of color to be kicking a school administrator in the butt and putting a sign on him, and then making the young white man look like doofuses. That this type of propaganda we have to stop. with this. And even in comedy, I was saying, it's taboo to criticize women. It's taboo to make women part the butt of the joke. And so when you get out there and do it, you're breaking barriers. So the more this truth leaks out, the more this conscious raising leaks out, the less and less appeal these extremist feminists are going to have. You know, even though I think women have been oppressed, they didn't work, but this is really just changes in society and technology that have made these changes more than anything else. Yeah, men had more power, and there's a lot of things that are bad, but you know, it's not
Well, yeah,
like men should
I
be
would address that.
oppressed forever. You
Men,
know,
men
that's
have men have the male power, but women have the female power, and it's always been so. So men have never had the power. They've just simply had the male power. And when we talk about female power, we immediately go to female senators and CEOs. But those are women that just happen to be wielding high-end forms of male power. We have a great resistance to looking at female power, female modes of power, beauty power, sexual power, a certain kind of moral authority. It's motherhood power. It's presumed innocence. It's the vastly greater power to elicit empathy. That's the power that raises only female concerns to the level of major societal concerns. It's a vastly greater power to inflict shame. That's the power. Okay, so like within the realms of gender conflict and complaint, gender activism and advocacy, gender ideology, gender issues, gender studies, gender politics, gender anything. There's feminism on the one hand, and on the other hand, there's nothing. That makes feminism, that makes gender politics a one-party system, as Warren Farrell pointed out. And it makes feminism a kind of ideological dictatorship where the feminine alone dictates what is true and what is not true in every aspect of gender reality. So women don't have power. If women have no power, how do they perpetrate and maintain such an ideological dictatorship where they alone get to tell us what's true and what's not true, and all matters that directly pertain to women as women and men as men?
yeah.
You know,
You know, there's
women just have different modes of power,
yeah,
but not less power.
yeah.
I don't think they ever did.
I'd like to support what Tim said. I I often look at a more basic thing than the survival of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or something, but just the survival of us as a species. And part of it is that there has to be a balance between male and female for a
Yeah.
species to survive. And we could not have survived this long as the human species had there not been a balance between men and women. There's
Right.
always been that balance.
Yes.
But another thing is for I can't remember where it's going because
Yeah,
it's
I've
really
been
the main thing right now.
Yeah.
But it's for the survival
Balance
of
of power. Yeah,
species,
balance of power.
for the balance for the survival of a species. Um, there are two major tasks, major areas, spheres of influence and power, and that's production and reproduction. Every
Mhm.
species needs food and protection and all. That's the productive sphere where men have been assigned the role of governing there and having their power there. But then there's also the reproductive sphere, and that's
Mhm.
where women's power is, and that's
Mhm.
what Tim's talking about. And it's not calculated and monetized and voted and so on, but it's
Right.
the
That's so
reproductive
right.
sphere is just
Yeah,
as important as the productive sphere, and their power within that sphere is immense.
immense. Yeah, and Fred's right. You see, the female modes of power tend to be subjective, difficult to actually measure. You see, where do women suffer inequality? Well, of course, in the world of men, and in the world of men is all quantifiable. You can walk in any corporate boardroom, and if there's 18 men and 5 women, it's a numerical fact, and from that you get a pie chart, and who can argue with a pie chart? It's objective. But how do you measure things like motherhood power?
Right.
It's immense, but how do you measure it?
And a man has to show ability and accountability to be successful in that productive sphere. But in the reproductive sphere, a woman just has to be able to reproduce. And those are her
Yeah.
children. And we don't check to see if she knows what she's doing while she's raising them. And if she's had 10 kids and they've all become criminals and problems, and all, she can have 11th and it's still her child to raise.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and if in divorce, the divorce is supposed to be a an economic contract, we're told, but it's also a reproductive contract. And so in divorce, we tell the man that you have to now continue doing your manly, responsibilities. You have to continue providing for her. The woman never has to lift another finger for the man. And if you stopped a family in the street and pulled a gun on them and said, hand over the keys to your car, or resign from your job and let me have your job, or give me your child, or give me the deed to your house, the last thing they're going to hand over is, okay, take the child. I want to keep my car. That's not going to happen. The most valuable thing we have is the child. And
Yeah.
so after a relationship breaks up, if the woman automatically gets the most valuable thing in
Yeah.
the relationship, and then we're supposedly dividing everything up fairly, it's hopeless. She's already gotten the most valuable thing.
That's right.
Yeah. And another aspect is men that I like to say that liberal men need to be red pilled too. I mean, they definitely need to be red pilled to understand what women are doing. I was a liberal guy and I was devastated
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
what women were doing. And I had
Uh-huh.
no idea. I
Right.
didn't know how to deal with it. And I had my own problems to begin with. And so, but if we're can the problem is that when we can raise the consciousness of men, but they stand up for themselves? And this is the one thing that can men learn to stand up to women in a political way, or are they going to do it in some other way that may not be to the benefit of the country or to their benefit, but it seems like the right way because they can't seem to directly stand up and say, hey, this isn't
Yeah.
right.
I think men can learn how to do that. I mean, if you go to like a workshop, you can learn how women work power. And it's not about how learning that female power is trivial and you can be immune to it. No, it's about learning how female power is powerful and you must take it seriously and you must steel against. So when she's working that shaming, you have to know what weapon she's using and that she's powerful with that weapon, and therefore your shield has to be up.
She's been practicing with that weapon since she
Yeah,
entered adolescence,
right.
sexual maturity.
Yeah,
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Women stop maturing emotionally when they reach sexual maturity. They don't have to. Everything's handed to them, metaphorically speaking. And so they don't have to mature emotionally. Men have to continue to mature as they enter different phases of their lives. And one more thing that we were discussing, but I lost the thought. But you're right on target, in my opinion, Tim, with that aspect of men have to learn how to fight in this arena.
yeah,
Women have been fighting in this arena again, since they
Emotional realm, yeah.
yes, and we have been okay. So women compete coming into men's spaces to compete with men. We just concede the field.
Yeah.
I suggest that that's exactly what we do. If we're
Yeah, no.
competing in men's spaces for men's opportunities and goodies in life, just walk away. You know, there's this whole MGTOW thing. Do not compete with women for just about anything. Certainly, as it pertains to emotional um, concerns, and let somebody else compete for you for your financial concerns. That's why we get a divorce lawyer. That's why we draw up a prenup so that we don't have to deal with the constant bombardment of women's emotional manipulation, because that's their weapon. They've learned how to
Yeah,
use
that's
it.
one of their weapons.
It's one of their weapons. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
go ahead. Fred. Go
yeah.
ahead, Fred.
Okay. Two things. One is I just want to thank Clark for losing your train of thought because because I keep doing that, and every time I do it,
Yeah.
it's just a reminder of how old I'm getting and losing my mind. And Clark, you're a young guy, so it's good to know other people. It happens to everybody.
I wouldn't rush
I
to
should-
judgment on that. I wouldn't rush to judgment on that, but it's my job. That's what I do. I lose my train of thought. Please continue.
All right. The other thing is we're talking about men, and we really need to talk about boys. We need, we raise girls. The girls get that message from all sides. Watch out for boys. They only want one thing. Protect yourself. You got, and we never tell boys to watch out for girls.
No, no.
That the way we tell girls, he watch out for a boy who just maybe wants your body. We never say to the boys, um, watch out for a girl because they might only like you because you're the quarterback on the football team. They're objectifying you. Watch out for the way they objectify you and use
Yeah.
you and use your status and so on. We really need to, and it might be easier actually. It's hard, for men, we've spent our whole lives deferring to women. So that's a tough thing to learn what Tim
Yeah.
was talking about.
Especially
But
when the hormones are going crazy
yeah,
but she's so cute. She's so beautiful.
but
Yeah.
we have to start protecting our boys.
Yeah, we do. Well, right. And we only think about the consequences and vulnerability of girls getting pregnant, but boys, at least the girls have options. The boys have to just sit there and await the woman's decision, and
Mhm.
her choice is his fate. And will she keep his child or will she abort his child? Will she hit him up for child payments? Will she have the child and never even let him know that he has a child? Will she then retroactively come after him 10 years later for one massive suit of what he owes? He's extremely vulnerable, just as vulnerable as she is. We say her body, her choice. We don't think, if he's going to set off to work as a bricklayer, well, that's his body, but not his choice. You know,
I,
so yeah, always, all this stuff is mirrored. That there's the other side of all these things, and we don't. We only know the feminism. We don't know the other half.
I remember my grandmother warning me about women, but was so non-specific.
Hmm.
And then women will warn you about other women. They'll tell, oh, watch out for that woman. I mean, and they're being honest with you about other women. The women will do this. They know how women treat men. They know how women exploit men and take advantage of men, but they blame men. It's men's responsibility because they allow it to happen. They don't consider that it's like 65% of women are doing this, or most of the women are doing that, and that we have to go through a minefield of women using us and taking advantage of us and exploiting us. But it's our fault if we fall for it. It's our fault, but we have to still pay, and if we pay the wrong one, right? That's really what it is. It's not about whether we pay or not. It's whether we pay the wrong one or not. And what are we getting for what we're paying for, type of thing. So, yeah, so women will tell you these things too. But I think young boys particularly, um, and young men, because I did not know any, and my father didn't tell me anything. And all my stuff was so negative. When my grandmother told me that, I knew it was true. But the problem is I was terrified and didn't know what to do. And so that's how I think I want to, because I want to help young men be successful
Yeah.
in their relationships. I
Yeah.
want them to get laid. I want them to get laid, and I want them to have relationships. Not, but don't want them to have relationships with women who are not
Yeah.
relationship
Who was
real.
it?
There's
Fred?
not. A lot of them are not.
Was it Fred wrote the book How to Get Laid Without Getting Screwed?
That's pretty good.
Uh,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that was,
yeah.
that was not you, Fred Hayward. Fred, what NCFM Fred, what's his name?
Oh,
But yeah,
Weissman, Fred.
oh, I'll get his name in a minute. But anyway, yeah, that was a great title of a book.
Yeah.
How to
So
Get
what?
Laid Without Getting Screwed.
Yeah. So what can we do as individuals, or maybe men do, even what can women do, um, to make a difference in this area?
Well,
Mm.
women can do more than men because they have more credibility. When
Yeah.
if they
Yes,
testify, if they speak out, they have more credibility. We're just an
Yeah.
angry man, or
Right.
deficient as a man.
it's their responsibility to turn this around. They've had the advantages up to this point. It's benefited them. And again, it's gonna be our responsibility to disincentivize our being mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with much that Oprah says, but I believe she says that you teach people how to treat you.
Huh.
And if you're being mistreated, um, you gotta either walk or demonstrate in your behavior how you need to be respected and
Yeah.
treated. Um, and of course, no one's talking about violence here, but some women might experience a man saying no to his own enslavement and economic servitude. A woman might experience that as a violent act, but it's him just emancipating himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, women are going to have to be responsible for making substantive change here, but we got to change our engagement, our rules of engagement, our behavior on the field.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so many things. Oprah, though, speaking of Oprah, she's a great example of a woman who's a great hero, but only to women. She's not a hero to men at
Precisely.
all. And Fred, you
I've
can
never
speak to
felt that
that.
Oprah had
Tell
anything to
tell
say to
tell us
me.
if you're not sick of telling it. Tell the story about being on Oprah.
Mm,
Oh, me?
Yeah.
All right. I was thrown off the show the first time
Yeah.
I was on.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Badge
was
of
ages
honor.
ago. That
Tell
was
us about that.
They, people, especially feminists, but I think people in general think that they're already experts on men's issues. We
yeah.
had to raise awareness about women's issues. We don't have to do that. Everybody knows about men. And so they just assumed that they know all about men's issues. They know what I'm going to say. And if I'm critical of feminism, that means I'm critical of equality. So I'm a sexist. So
Yeah.
they put me on the show assuming they were going to talk to a sexist. And her introduction to me, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but it was along the lines of, well, we all know that men don't have any serious problems, but somebody wants to talk about them anyway. Please welcome Fred Hayward.
Oh,
And
wow.
and I
Yeah.
And that was actually common, because people did think men don't have serious problems. I got that from a lot of hosts, but I just was not in that mood that day. And so I said to her, the Black population in prison is 8 times as high proportionately as the rest of the population. Why do you think that's true? So now she's thinking, oh, he's not only a sexist, he's a racist.
Yeah.
And she immediately said all of the problems, the social and economic problems and discrimination and so on that Blacks face in our society, and that the high incarceration rate was just a measure of that. And I said, well, okay. So Blacks are 8 times as likely to be incarcerated as the rest of the population. And you're saying that's a symptom that they have serious problems. Men are 24 times as likely to be incarcerated as the rest of the population. So by your logic, doesn't that mean we do have something to talk about here? And they cut to a commercial and asked me to leave.
And then you're
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the producer came over to me and said, you're going to have to leave. This isn't going the way we planned.
Right.
Right. They wanted
Right.
They had a chef there. They did chicken recipes for the rest of the show. But yeah, that was the first time I was on.
Yeah, that's amazing. It is amazing in a way. I mean, I tend to avoid this thing where, it's crazy or it's all crazy, because that kind of gets us kind of stuck if we just think it's crazy. But it's really all derives from chivalry, instinct, eros. That's what's driving the show. And those are primitive, archetypal psychic forces.
Yes.
Much more powerful than fact and logic. And they are often irrational. They are often crazy. But that's where it comes from, ultimately, I believe. It's the culture then takes that and does stuff with that chivalry instinct and eros, and different for each culture. They're kind of like seeds, and it depends a bit on the cultural soil in which they're planted. But these are very powerful in these matters. We think we're driven by rationality, fact, and logic, but really bubbling underneath are more powerful forces. So we protect women more because throughout our evolutionary period, the female is the limiting factor in reproduction. And particularly for hominins, that was crucial. Hominins didn't have that much going for them. And hominins had some serious reproductive challenges. When we came down from the trees and started walking full time, and the hips narrowed so the legs could be directly underneath. And when the hips narrowed, so did the birth canal. And it created issues. So my best guess, this is just me talking, but I think it created a deeper than usual out in nature, sort of instinctual imperative to protect the female, protect the female and children, because the total number of birthing females you have in your population determines the total number of offspring you're going to have. And if survival of your band, survival of your tribes, survival of your species depends on a simple formula where the number of offspring, if the number of offspring does not match the number of attrition, the rate of attrition, death by any and all causes, well, then you're going to die out. The species is going to die out. So I think there's that. I think that's an element of why humans protect their female. So but there certainly seems to be this mandate, if you will, to protect the female, and that underlies a lot of what we're looking at.
There's got to be truth in that, and we don't know, how much is innate and how much is taught, because it's a combination. But at the very least, we could be honest about it and insist on some honesty and not, I mean, feminists have gotten away for decades with saying that we glorify violence against women, we condone violence against, and we are horrified, and we all know we're horrified by violence against women.
Right.
It just boggles my mind that they've been able to get away with lies like that, whatever causes it, whether it's nature or nurture. It's just so clearly false.
I know, so clear. So again, it seems crazy, but if you look at it in terms of evolutionary psychology, you can at least understand what the origin probably is of that.
Yeah, and for them to kick you out, I mean, it's their audience, right? They don't want to lose their audience.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been there, lose people, you know,
wow.
they just do not, those women do not want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They want to put themselves in their role. They're comfortable with that. This is bullshit. We've always been oppressed. Men are the perpetrators, and they want us for sex only. You know, they're constantly, you know, and this adversarial relationship we have in dating. You know, the women are really defensive. You know, they'll attack men right off the bat, but they won't say what they're doing. You know, but and so, you know, they're just don't want to hear it, and it's hard with any audience, like to talk to people about things that they don't really want to hear. So yeah, so basically, if you want to go to my party, it's this afternoon. Let's see what else is going on here.
I got Richard. I have to go now.
Okay.
So, but before I do, I just want to wish you a happy birthday and thank you for spending some time of it with us today.
All right. Thank you, Fred. Thank you very much.
See you
Good to
later.
see you, Fred.
Bye, Tim and Clark. I love listening to you. And I'm glad I got to meet you. And bye to everyone.
Bye.
Okay, so we got a
My
question.
sincere pleasure. You and I are simpatico.
So we got a question here in the chat here, you know, and the question is what's wrong with saying traditional masculinity is toxic? Those traditional role expectations, what men want to escape and want society to stop pushing on them. Sounds like the consensus here is that men and women have each had specific spheres of power, responsible, e.g., protection, reproduction. If you want to talk or come on, it's free. If you want, you can just unmute and I'll read your thing. And that we should keep accepting that pattern as if given and reinforcing it. I thought the modern men's movement was about completing the incomplete revolution and addressing the concerns men had about the unfair expectation placed on them. What I'm hearing sounds far like the conservative far-right red pill go, accepting and reinforcing traditional role arrangements all around. Is it really what you want to promote? Someone said that if women want respect, they must become more respectable. Well, over the past 50 years, women have worked harder to support themselves, contribute. Yeah, well, we acknowledge all of that. And there may be a comment if you wanted to come in, but I would say that we're not saying that. I don't think traditional masculinity is toxic. I think traditional masculinity is just traditional masculinity. But is there traditional masculinity and non-traditional masculinity? I'm not sure there's a distinction there. There's masculinity, you know, and it's about being a leader, and it's about being strong, it's about being independent, it's about being self-sufficient, it's about being successful, being respectful and being respected.
Yeah,
And I think
honor,
we're letting
integrity.
someone else define for us
Yeah,
what traditional masculinity is.
that's very good. Yeah, I know. I did an essay once about that, making the distinction between defining masculinity, which is perfectly cool, versus redefining masculinity, which assumes that masculinity is not real and that it's just a social construct that we can redefine any way that serves our purposes.
Yeah, and I don't think necessarily, I think there are different opinions here. I think there's who would like to go to traditional relationships. There are others like myself who would like to remove those traditional type of constraints. But I think that we're not really, and I think that sometimes we hear things that really are not, although they're not really everybody here. I think that women need to change. Like I said, it's women's turn to change. Men have made great strides. We respect women now. We allow them to judge us. We allow them to supervise us. We don't do catcalling in the streets. The sexual harassment laws have educated everybody. We treat women as equals. This is what men have learned to do, and yet women have not learned to do that. And
Yeah.
so,
In my schema, it's we've learned to respect women but not love men. The name of
yeah,
my book is Loving Men, Respecting Women, The Future of Gender Politics. And this is not a trad, this is not a tradcon thing. In
Hmm.
fact, I think humanity has never loved men. It's never really empathized with men. It's never really lent men empathy, concern, compassion. And I don't think that society has ever really respected women in the sense of holding women accountable.
uh,
We don't really respect women's power. We don't respect their efficacy. We don't respect their weaponry. We don't respect their equal partnership in the human system, generating an equal overall force of influence and thus equally responsible for outcomes.
right.
Hmm.
And I think there's a tendency to want to group the red pill into this group of, conservative, far right. I think here we're a nonpartisan organization. That's right. And I think I said that the National Coalition for Men is nonpartisan. You can see just by looking at the screen right now that we are a racially diverse group, and
Yep.
that me being there, we're a politically diverse group.
Mhm.
So it's not that; men's. It's not just about men's health and welfare, but it's about equality. I think the biggest problem that men in the men's rights movement have with this current situation is inequality, unequal treatment,
Yeah.
not respecting that men have their own issues and that women cannot represent women. There's no way. They do not share our experience, and they do not really, they don't care unless they're interested in us, unless we meet certain standards that they just cannot represent us. And so men need to represent themselves, just like, and we all have a right. I call it, we have a right to be at the intersectional table. We have a right to be there, that we are not the oppressors. We are, and any feminist or any socialist worth his salt would recognize
Yeah.
that we are all oppressed by these systems, even if you don't think that systems exist. But if you do think it, you got to think that everyone is oppressed by the system. And yet to say that men have nothing that they have to stand up for, no rights they have to defend, no concerns they need to address, no problems, societal problems with misandry or discrimination. I think you would be wrong. And I think we've already settled on that. I mean, these laws on sexual harassment and discrimination, they apply to both men and women, and both men and women have sued under these laws. So
Hmm.
it's not like we're somehow now saying we want to go back. I think that's a mistake to go back. We need to go forward. And that's why I
Yeah.
think it's raising consciousness and saying that it's women's turn to change. We're not going to be providing for you. You want a man who makes more money than you? Good luck, you rich woman. You know, you
Yeah.
know,
PhD woman driving a Mercedes and looking to marry up. Yeah.
and
Hypergamy doesn't care.
I know that's
right.
true.
And looking at these young,
Unfortunately, it's not a rational thing. It's again instinctual.
right. I mean,
Unfortunately.
right. And young boys, boys,
And just because acknowledging the existence of instinct and so on doesn't mean advocating for it, doesn't mean that I approve of it. It just means that
Precisely.
I'm presenting what is as an explanation for what is.
You're
yeah,
sounding
I
quite Freudian there, Tim.
Yeah, okay. So, but the point when people want to pigeonhole me as tradcon, now hold on here. I'm looking to change the world. I'm looking to shift more love toward men and respect toward women. I'm looking to make changes that are unprecedented. We've never
Yeah.
done.
And think about these young boys. They're coming out. What do they want? They want a girlfriend. They want affection. They want love. Look at all the girls that are around them. I mean, they're eye popping, you know,
Oh,
and here they are. Can't, they don't have the money. They don't have the skills.
yeah.
Maybe all they can do is be a Chad if they're lucky. Get in shape, and I encourage guys, get in shape. See it if you can, get some rippling muscles, and you'll have women. You can go to a strip show and they will be lining up.
Yeah. But
You
will
know,
they marry you? You see, that's the thing.
you wouldn't
That's
want
the
to
part.
marry them. Why would
Well,
you marry
but
them?
you may want to marry them and they don't want to marry you. They just want to use you sexually. And that can
Right?
be, and maybe some men would go, "Oh, great, sign me up." But I think they might be kidding themselves. I think men fall in love big time. And it could be very heartbreaking to realize that the woman you fall in love with, she don't want to marry you.
Right. I mean, that's why the young men need to be educated. I mean, it's one thing. I think it's one thing to go in there thinking you're going to be the good guy. You want to have a relationship. You want to have a girlfriend. The woman's vulnerable. She's going to be true. All this delusional stuff, not realizing that none of these women in their 20s are relationship material. None of them are actually looking for a relationship. And if you're getting laid, you're getting lucky, and that's it. You know. And so they're not looking for a relationship until you turn 30, and then you better put your guard up because they're looking for a sperm donor and a bank account. I mean, why do these young boys have such mental problems? Because they have to deal with the fact that these women are not going to be with them unless they're Chads. And most of the women who will be with them are going to be older women. And the young women are going to be running off to the rich guys, and you may find some that will be with you. I mean, you're in high school, they're still under 18. They can't date the older guys. But once they hit 18, man, that's it. And so what do these young guys have to deal with? Do they have a future? Is they have
80-20 rule. 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Right. They need to become rich. And so what do? We create a society of men who are just trying to become rich so they can get a woman. And then doesn't that lead to war? And when we talk about war, sending men off to die while women go shopping,
I know,
and
I know.
women blaming men for war when we're dying for them. You know, I,
Materialism is largely the purview of women, and it is one of the causes of war.
So not only does the men movement really is demanding true equality, the truth is, in some ways, it's not even about equality. I mean, men are giving their lives for women. That's men's role. That's a part of men's role is to die for women and children. And it's not about equality in that sense. So I think we need a much more flexible mindset to not immediately go to, because there are conservative guys, and you know what? If they're attracted to this and they're going to be targeted with some hyper conservative, far right propaganda, and it takes a lot to separate truth from reality.
Oh
But
boy.
the truth is the
You're
real
separating fact from
evolutionary
fiction.
psychology. So yeah, so I think we need to be open to the idea that men have concerns. They deserve a place at the intersectional table. They
They
deserve a
deserve to be
right.
loved. They
Yeah, and
deserve to be
deserve to
loved,
be loved.
empathized with, cared about.
Right. And these young men, what they're going through, you talked about how women mature earlier and then stop maturing. That's how we should see it. Not, oh, girls mature faster than boys, and boys are just slow. No, we have to grow up when we have to grow up, in our 20s because we're not getting anything handed to us, you know.
Yeah, if women, girls mature faster, they're just being biologically accelerated to have babies as quickly as possible, which goes back to this hominin issue with having enough offspring to offset the attrition, because
Yep.
here we are, these little two-legged apes, and we got nothing really, and we're neither well defended nor fleet of foot, and we can't hardly reproduce at any kind of rate. So one of the tricks nature came up with was for the female to accelerate their maturation toward so they could be having babies as quickly as possible. But it's only one form of maturation. It's kind of one that counts most in school, I think, because the boys, meanwhile, they're going off and doing sports. So how are they maturing? They're maturing in terms of establishing fairness, the rules of the game,
Yes.
sportsmanship. Uh,
Yep.
you see, yeah, you're right with me, Clark. All these things that you get from sports.
Working together as a team.
Yeah, learning how to win, how to lose, all these
Mm-hmm.
things. So in that sense, the boys are having accelerated development,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't tend to help them in the classroom so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we chemically sedate them. We
Yes.
give them psychostimulants, which have a paradoxical effect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we drown them in Ritalin and other psychotropics to
And then there's this undercurrent. I think there's some recognition on an unconscious level, at least for a young man, that he's disposable. He's going to
Oh,
go,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
yeah,
That
learn
we,
that lesson early on.
yeah, that women, they have children, so only one man needs to impregnate them. So
Mhm.
we're willing to sacrifice men's lives to protect these wombs.
Sure,
And
sure.
and not only do young men realize that they're not desired, that they're disposable.
Yeah. So when I point out the instinctual basis for these things, that I'm not validating them by pointing out the origins, the instinctual origins. In fact, I'm saying that these instinctual origins may have applied a million years ago, but they got, they got nothing to do with reality now. It's not as if there's 8 billion of us. We're not at much risk of disappearing. Um,
Mhm.
it's these things had,
Usefulness,
yeah,
utility.
the 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 way genetics works is purely mechanical.
Mm.
Yeah. We have,
It's whatever traits aid in survival tend to survive. And there's no morality behind it and no thinking behind it. It's just a mechanism.
yeah.
And
So
so,
Terry
go ahead, I
asked,
should say.
what's all this about girls having everything handed to them? Girls now expected to work hard in school, jobs, and even sports. Yes, welcome to equality.
Yeah.
Um, but I
Yeah.
think, yeah, but sometimes there's this tendency to go to the extremes. This is the innate desire to this adversarial nature to whatever a man says has to be discredited. So
Yep.
to say that women are getting handed everything, that's something that I don't necessarily go. I think there is some sense that women are getting more resources
Well,
than
there's an element
men
of
are.
truth to it. A girl born beautiful is kind of the victim of a trust fund as much as a boy born with a $10 million trust fund. She's kind of got everything she needs.
Pretty
Uh,
privilege.
she's very privileged, and she may work hard anyway, of course, just like somebody born with a $10 million trust fund might work very hard, but they sort of don't have to. And
Right. Yeah.
because there are still rich men out there, and if a woman's beautiful enough, she can attract one of those.
Yeah. And
It's
I
not
think
as
that's,
easy anymore as it used to be, but it's still,
yeah. Yeah. I think
I would
most of those
like,
men,
go ahead.
yeah, I think most of those men, if they're smart, they're not going to let the women take their money like that
yeah. Well, but they're
anymore.
not smart
We
though.
gotta make them. We
They're
gotta
they're
make
they're
them
horny
smart.
and she's hot as hell, and that's how
Yeah.
it tends to
What's the
Yeah.
work.
name of that
And,
Kansas City football player? He was married for 18 months, or he's in a relationship for 18 months, and now she's leaving him
and
with half.
taking
He's
half.
got to pay her six
Yeah.
figures a month just
Right.
walking around money. They haven't even completely split yet. There was one more thing I
Yeah.
wanted to say. relevant to what Tim was saying about um, uh, evolution, and that is there are really supposed to be 4 trimesters, but because that hip girdle is so small, we pop them out. We, meaning humans, pop them out, and then they have another 3 months of complete dependency. So when you were talking earlier about, well, why do Homo sapiens protect the female of the species so much? It's because, there's this rational self-interest in forwarding your genetic material. But
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. There's supposed to be
right,
four
right.
trimesters.
It's complicated. And you've hit on another aspect. Women are more valuable because they take care of the infants, the precious the infants, so precious and few, and that died in such high percentages. That you need to protect the female because they protected the infants.
I think the issue here is not what Terry's presenting about how women have all these had challenges. They certainly do, but it's a question of the privilege. Who's privileged, and it's an acknowledgement of women's privileges. It's not saying that women are have it's so much easier than men necessarily. They have it hard too. Nobody has it easy in this life. But the issue is, can we acknowledge that women have privileges over and above what men have? And that those privileges, in some cases, are not really fair and or at least perceived not fair. It may not be fair that pretty girls turn 18 and they have the world opens up to them, while boys turn 18 and they got to get a job.
Yeah.
They got to go to school and they got to study and they got to work, and for a lot of them, women really don't want them and they're all asking for money. And so it's just an acknowledgement of what female privilege. It's privileges, not that men don't have privileges, but
Right.
we need to acknowledge that women have privileges too. And this is the question. Terry comes back with no draft registration or registration for all. Well, and most feminists would agree with that. Well, I think that's
Mm,
noble of those feminists
well,
to
yeah, but
admit
that's
it,
also
but
pretty
women
new.
won't.
Feminists
Yeah,
have fought it tooth and nail. Maybe they're finally come around to it, but let's not credit feminism with being wanting equality in everything. That's there's still a lot of women that oppose the draft for
I don't
women.
think. Right.
And yeah, there are some feminists that are actually true to their principles and
Yeah.
do want women subject to the draft.
Right. But I think the thing with the draft, I don't think anybody wants it. I don't think men want women drafted. I don't think women want
No.
women drafted.
Again,
It's
we
a
want to
conundrum.
protect women.
Right?
We really don't want to send women out on the battlefields by the thousands and the millions. We don't want women being shipped back in body bags by the millions. Nobody does. It's
Yeah.
an instinctual thing. It's uh, like it or
But
not, you know?
we also want women to be feminine. We want them to be dainty. We don't want to be lugging around big packs and M16s and chewing tobacco and smoking cigarettes.
That toxic femininity.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, but I don't think men want women to be masculine in that sense either.
No, and
I think
women
women
don't
can
want the
play a
men to be
role.
feminine, not if they're
Yeah,
heterosexual.
right. And women, that's the conflict. They teach us they want men to be softer, but when it comes down to it, they are screaming and hot for the hard men.
I know.
The men with the muscles, the men with the ripples, the guys who are masculine, the guys who are tough, the bad boy.
I know, and men have
You
been
know,
observing this
so
for millennia. Yeah. Oh, why can't you be soft? Why can't you be kinder? Why can't you be nicer? Why can't you be like that guy over there? Well, because that guy over there doesn't get laid. That's why, you want men to be like that, reward them by fucking them.
Right. Yeah, thing is, yeah, that's a good point. Please,
Yeah.
let's stop having sex with us and start for a change. There's this idea that few men are willing or able to buy sex. That really is terrible. If I just realized when I graduated, when I went to college, that women are what they are. They're not innocent, pure vessels. They don't want relationships. They want money. They want sex. Those are and status. If I had realized that, I could spend it here. But how about how do young men feel who don't have any money, telling them that few buy sell sex? Few? I mean, how many women are asking for money? How many women are expecting to be paid? They're not just the women on the streets, So you go on a date, even, and so they expect you to spend money and buy stuff just to have them around you. And the guys don't have any money, and so they're lonely. It can be very, very difficult for a young man, and so we need to have
Yeah, they
some
turn to
compassion
pornography,
for
they
men.
turn to computer games, they turn to all these things. And what's the emotional, psychological cost of not dating anymore?
Right. I mean, if everybody had money and we were given a sex allowance, okay, and we could go pay. But women are constantly, money, money, money is always a big thing, and they're looking at your bank account. They're looking at all that, and so we have to be realistic about how women really are, and that's what men need to be trained. They're not innocent, I mean, traditionally feminine. No, it's not it. Not it at all.
You're
Well,
like,
what? That's just an opinion that you want to foist upon us, Terry. We are not conservative right-wing ideology, and we don't
Wow.
necessarily want traditional feminine roles.
we're
We
actually
don't, and we've been
protesting.
talking
We
about
are protesting that. We are pointing out that it exists.
yeah,
We don't like it.
really protesting traditional female
Yeah,
behavior.
we hate
Yeah,
traditional
shoot. I
female
mean, and we
behavior.
don't want to pay anymore. You can pay for yourself. You got a
Yeah.
job. You can pay for yourself. We don't want to pay
Love
for you
us,
anymore.
Terry.
We don't want.
grant us some
Yeah,
innate value for God's sake.
yeah, yeah. I mean, really, are we really? You think we're trying to go back to traditional roles? It's women who want the traditionals. They're the one who's saying, "I want a traditional relationship." How many times do you hear that? I want a traditional relationship, which usually means men pay for everything, and it
May
doesn't
I
mean
say
I do the
something?
dishes. Go
May I
ahead.
say something here? Terry, Richard, who is the host of the podcast, asked that if you were to contribute, you might turn on your camera. Now, I don't know. There is an actress, that may be a traditional term, but there is an actress named Terry Farrell. I would say she's traditionally feminine, but
Oh
she
boy.
played a role in Star Trek
Yeah.
of a Trill
It was
host,
Dax.
Dax, and she kicked butt.
Oh, she was gorgeous and yeah, really hot.
And she married the most masculine, traditionally masculine dude
Yeah,
on the space station. All right.
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
Worf.
All right. Now,
That
I personally knew that relationship was doomed for a number of, what is the word? Ethnocentric reasons. But nonetheless, Terry, are you a male or a female here?
No, I think Terry, I'm familiar. I think Terry is a female. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Okay. That explains the question.
Right, right. And
All right.
one thing,
I'm cool
yeah,
with that.
yeah,
Welcome
yeah.
aboard,
And so,
Terry. Thanks for
welcome. Yeah.
joining us.
yeah,
Love to thank you for being here.
yeah. So the idea that women are, she says, far fewer women are expecting financial support from them. That may be true. The dividing line is really on beauty and attractiveness
Well,
as far as that, because You go out and you find
How
out.
could you be expecting
Well,
men to pay as much when men aren't making that much money anymore? I mean,
right.
of
It's
course
kind
you're
of
not
like an
expecting them to pay
afterthought,
for
right?
everything when they're not even graduating college.
Yeah, really, you go out on a date, and a lot of these women are expecting you to pay. You're expected to be the provider still. Our expectations of men have not really changed. Particularly, my age, women they haven't changed in their regard of what they expect of men. Most of them, and the
Yeah.
more beautiful they are, the less willing
Yeah.
they are
I
to
mean,
compromise.
maybe women are more willing to have sex for its own sake now.
But
But
only with
but in
certain men.
terms of relationships, in terms of marriage, in terms of long-term connection, very, very, very few women marry a man where she's making more than he is at the
And
outset.
if they do, it's doomed. 80% of women, college age, 90 or college educated, 90% of women file first.
For divorce. That's right.
Yeah. And these things are not easy to change because they're innate in a way. That this is what women have been attracted to. And they've always sought security in men, not only protection, but financial security. And they feel entitled to that. There's a lot of entitlement to men's money. And entitlement to certain types of treatment. And it's important for us to recognize entitlement and privilege. We've been serving women, you know, chasing tail, you might call it. So yeah, I don't think that things have changed as much as we would like, and we are advocating for change. We're advocating
Hoping
for,
for hoping for change.
And
yeah,
that's not traditional.
No,
What we are appealing for, what we are working toward is something definitely non-traditional.
that's right.
yeah. Well, we're 20 minutes over, and I'm glad we've been able to have this conversation. I want to thank Terry for participating, giving us an opportunity
Me too.
to discuss these issues. And I want to thank Matthew for your loyalty. Rick, it's good to see you here, and everybody who came. I'm sorry we went a little over for some people, but I've got to run off to a party, and I got to prepare for my comedy skit. You gonna
Yeah.
make
Happy
it, George?
birthday, Rick.
Happy birthday, Richard.
Thank you. All right. So it's the non-part. Yeah. All right. So that's good enough. I told you guys. Bellflower Comedy Club. Uh, well, feminism isn't to blame for everything. And I think that's true. But I think that we need to take a step back and start to see how men's and women's roles and tradition and how men's and women's behavior acts. Thank you very much. Men's and women's behavior has an impact on this whole situation. That we're not equal in the sense that
Yeah.
there is really no. I mean, Tim would tell you that we're equal in many ways, but in our relationships, it's not based on equality. It's based on our complementariness, on our differences.
Well,
We
if you
provide.
define equality as being the same, if you
Yeah,
mean by equality, unisex equality, no, we're not equal in that sense.
right.
I think in terms of a certain balance beam, we're equal.
Right. But our relationships are not based on equality, they're based on differences. Women still want a guy to lead, but when you get all of a sudden the man who leads is toxic. But when you get, like you said, they still want the hot masculine guy. That has not changed. And it's probably
Yes,
not going to change.
but don't see the thing is, yes, a woman wants a man who's superior, but a superior along the masculine. She already assumes she's superior along the feminine. So she
Right.
really wants a man who's equal to her.
Right.
When she
That
knows she owns beauty, grace, goodness, home, family, parenting, everything along the love axis, she now wants a man that's superior in all things along the respect axis who will be her equal.
right. And that includes status, money, and
Yeah,
looks.
yeah,
Right. And if we can't make more than women, we're not going to have a relationship.
no.
or with an older woman, less attractive. We can have a relationship with women, but they're not going to be what we're actually, they're not going to be attractive. They're not going to be, on our plane as far as attractiveness or anything like that. We're going to have to settle. We're going to have to settle. All right. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Terry. All right. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys next week on Sunday. And next month, I'm going to have another program. I don't know what's going to be. And I don't know how I'm going to promote it. But I'll see you guys, everyone, next month. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Take care now.
Thanks, Richard.
Bye-bye.
Please post the chat somewhere.
Okay. All
Appreciate
right.
it.
I'll take that. You're welcome.